Okay, here we are with my friend Magdala. I always sing when my friends come on too. I'm not sure why I do that. Yes. So I'll do a quick intro of who you are to me. We met. What year was it? Oh my gosh. I don't know. 20.
That's a good question. 2015?
Yeah, maybe. Sure.
Or 16?
2015. I went to
Or 16.
Okay, yeah. I went to USF. Oh, actually, really quick, can you turn your computer volume down like as much as you can to the point where you can like hear me?
Yes.
But it's not too quiet.
Wait. Okay.
Cool. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, yeah, we met 2015, 2016. I actually went to USF for like one semester. And it wasn't the best time because I went at an awkward timing. Magdala was in her master's. I was in my junior year of college. So she was always busy doing master's things and I was alone a lot. So that's why it wasn't the greatest. But God is still good. I did not ask him to go to USF. I just went because I wanted to. And that's why I was alone probably, you know. I didn't ask the Lord. But I got Magdala out of it, you know? And if I didn't have Magdala, I don't know what I would have done. Okay? So, very grateful to have brought something from my USF experience. I did get a good education when I was there, so that's good. But also, Magdala is still here. So,
yes, there were some benefits, pros and cons to everything.
Exactly, pros and cons. So, that's how I know Magdala. We've been friends ever since. So, when I learned about, you know, her experience with same-sex attraction, I was like, let's do the episode because I love learning about this kind of stuff. I love learning about anything, but I think the church doesn't have these conversations. So when I found a friend that was willing to, I'm like, oh, we definitely need to come on the podcast and do this. So that is that. That's how I know Magdala. But Magdala, as you may already know, I start every interview by asking the question, what aspect of God's character, Holy Spirit, Trinity's character, it has been most evident in your life if you had to choose one characteristic?
I gotta pick a good one. I'm thinking of a few. Let me try to do the process of elimination. I want to say grace.
Okay.
Do I have to give an explanation?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I've had a lot of different experiences throughout my life. But where I have like seen Jesus show up the most is like when I have felt, you know, guilty or when I have felt like, you know, that I was a problem or the things that I did were a problem. And just like getting that forgiveness that I don't deserve and that like embracing love that I don't deserve has always been very present. Because like when I was younger, I experienced abuse. And I think just psychologically, I've always kind of felt like I've done something wrong, you know, or it was my fault. And so since then, I've been like running from being guilty as much as I can. And so I think that grace in particular always speaks loudest to me because I need that reassurance that, you know, I'm forgiven, I'm loved, I actually didn't do anything wrong, and like things happen, and, you know, it's just nice to know that I have that grace, regardless of whether I am, you know, I make mistakes or not. Because I think that like kind of birthed in me like this perfectionist mentality that I have to do everything right so I can avoid being guilty. And grace just like tackles that. Like, actually, I love you now and then and forever for whatever happens. So you can be a screw up and I'm still here. Like, I still love you, you know?
Yep.
So I think that is definitely the biggest for me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we are sinners, you know, we just be sinning every single day and God still loves us. And he literally sent his son to die for us. Why? I still don't know, you know? That might be one of my first questions I ask when I get to heaven, because like, why? I don't understand how a perfect being can want me.
Right. Like, you really like us?
Like, why do you love us? So
you like us? Yes.
So,
it's
yes.
so real.
And, you know, I completely agree with that. I was running from grace for a lot of my life because I didn't want to need it. Because you have to admit you're a sinner to need grace. So, like, I have to admit I'm wrong. I sin to need grace. But, like, what a cool thing grace is, that it's basically unconditional love, because, yes, I am a sinner, but I still choose you. Like, God is so good. So, yes.
It is. And it's also, I think the reason why it's so hard to accept, at least for me, is that nobody treats me like that. You know, like, if I hurt somebody, they're going to be like, yo, what's up? Like, we got to talk about it, reconcile. and Jesus is just like, you're good.
Yeah. Like, what sin?
Like, we can talk about it if you want to, but you're good still.
Right,
you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like so hard for me to like accept.
Yeah. I think that's why it's so hard for us to understand too, because we want to, our goal is to unconditionally love each other, but it's not possible on earth for humans. It's just, it's not possible. So, yeah, you don't experience it. He's the only one that can love you that way. And that's really cool. Shout out to Jesus. Yes, good stuff. So, I love when people answer that question. There's always different answers. I think grace has only been repeated once now, because you said it, someone else said it, but it's usually like a broad range. So, yes. So let's get into the topic. I first want to do some like housekeeping. You know what I mean? I just want to tell people, like, this is not an episode demanding and outlining why homosexuality is bad. We already know the Bible is very clear on the fact that choosing that lifestyle is sinful, and different verses like Genesis 19, 1 through 13, Leviticus 18, 22, and 20 and 30, Romans 1, 26 through 27, 1 Corinthians 6, 9. We know it's in there. It's very clear. But I just want to say, like, it grieves my heart to know, you know, that people with this experience are so alienated, hated in the church, for something that like literally affects like their life, like it affects your life. Like, and at the end of the day, why are you so angry at these people for experiencing what they're experiencing when it affects your life in no way? That's the thing that throws me off too. Like, why do you hate these people? Makes no sense.
Like, this has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Nothing to do with you. So, yeah. We already know that the verses say that, and we believe what the Bible says, but I think there's a similar situation in the church where like kind of same-sex attraction and virginity. Like, a lot of the churches preach about how bad homosexuality is, how bad sex before marriage is, but we don't speak about or speak to the people who are experiencing same-sex attraction and higher libidos that want to honor God with their sexuality. So my desire for this conversation is, you know, I pray that people feel seen and heard, and for the Christians that are so, I'll say hard-hearted to this community, that you would learn to love well, because they sin just like we sin. So I just wanted to lay that out. I feel like I'm like talking to my kids or like reprimanding people, but I just want to lay that out there because I don't want any room for that. And like my friends know, with the people I love, don't do it. Okay? Don't do it. And this group of people are people I love as well. Just like you should love them. Like, they're our brothers and sisters. So I just want to lay that out there. But I will ask you, Magdala, in this conversation of same-sex attraction, when do you feel like you realized you were same-sex attracted, and when do you feel like you finally had an understanding of it?
Yeah, so I definitely noticed very early on that I was like attracted to women. I was little, I know that much. But I remember like distinctly in like second grade wanting to be like closer to different girls that I knew, you know, in my class or elsewhere, or just like seeing girls and thinking they were really pretty, wanting to be their friends, things like that. But I think that it wasn't like something that just happened one day. It definitely was always present, I feel. But I think when I was like about, you know, 6 or 7, that's when I'm like putting the connections together. Like, oh, I like that girl. Like, in how, you know, kids talk about their feelings. That was like how I was, you know, sharing those feelings. Oh, I like this person.
Okay.
At least that was how I was you know, being able to articulate it at a young age. Like, that's how I would describe it. I think when I finally had a better understanding of it was 2 years ago. So we're talking, the range is 6 to 26.
And yeah, right. I'm like, let the people know how old you are, so they understand.
Yeah. So like pretty much like last year, in just doing different, so specifically, I participated in an LGBTQ plus allyship training where I work, and they were giving different definitions of things and kind of like breaking down sexuality for everyone to understand, you know, the different identities in the LGBTQ plus community. And as we were going through them, I was like, that sounds like me. Like, whatever you're describing here, like, this is actually how I feel. And it was really cool to like get that perspective. Funny how I found out, but like really awesome that I could like kind of start to understand myself better.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome. And that kind of lends to my feelings about the church as well, because I think one thing I admire about people that are like in the world, I know that sounds bad, but just stay with me. They're less fearless. Like, Christians are so fearful to explore things, to understand. And I've even learned like so much from like not Christian rap, but rap or different things like you just said. Like, you are going to something that's not for Christians, I guess, but it can help you understand who you are as a person. So,
right. I agree. I think it took me, I mean, I wasn't intentionally trying to step out of my comfort zone. Like, I'm very interested in being an LGBTQ plus ally, especially in my line of work. Like, eventually I want to do diversity and inclusion programming, things like that. So I need to like be aware of the different identities, you know, that exist, and just understand that community better.
Yeah.
And it took me kind of jumping into that area to understand things. And that's actually happened a lot for me in my faith. Like, I've learned so much from people who aren't Christian, because we can have honest conversations about things that people kind of brush under the rug, or maybe don't know how to have a conversation about. Right. I think maybe, you know, some Christians would be against going to an LGBTQ plus allyship training. Right. So things like that, it like could really actually be helpful for people to understand. So
yeah. And that leads me to ask you again, because when we were chatting before, I don't know, it's just so interesting to me, and you're like teaching me new things, but you said you feel like all Christians should have like a coming out moment. What do you mean by that?
So in my experience, I'll backtrack a little bit. At the LGBTQ plus training that I did, they were breaking down different elements surrounding attraction and sexuality. So particularly, the thing that stuck out to me was that they made a distinction between physical and romantic attraction. Right? So physical attraction is an interest in engaging in sexual activity with someone. But romantic attraction is an interest in being involved in a romantic relationship with someone. And so they were talking about that, and they were saying how those two things don't equal each other. So most of the time people say like, oh, I'm attracted to this person, and that lumps together romantic attraction and physical attraction. But there are actually people who experience maybe just one or the other. Maybe there's some people who actually don't experience romantic attraction, or who don't experience physical attraction, like those who identify as asexual. And so as I was going through this, I was like, that's actually how I feel. Like, I feel romantically attracted to women, but not physically attracted. And it's different because for me, I am physically and romantically attracted to men. I know what that experience is like. But for women, I actually don't have any interest in engaging in sexual activity with a woman. But I am very but I've been in like settings where I've been romantically attracted to somebody. So I've felt that distinction.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I saw those two distinctions and those two definitions side by side where I was like, that's actually how I feel.
Yeah.
And it helps me like, understand my sexuality. And so that's why I feel like everyone should think about their sexuality.
Yes.
Like, who are you attracted to? Why are you attracted to those people? You can go, and you can go as far as to that. Like, what makes you attracted to those people? What do you like? You know what I mean? And then even going further, like thinking about, are you physically attracted to these folks? Are you romantically attracted to these people? Because I actually think that could be healthy for you to understand as you explore romantic relationships, intimate relationships with people. You have a better understanding of yourself. And I only, like, early on when I was kind of going through my journey of figuring out my sexuality, I remember doing, like, some different support groups for Christians. And in one particular, they had us break that down. Like, okay, so you feel attraction towards women. What type of women are you attracted to? Maybe why are you attracted to those women? And it was like a great way for me to understand myself and kind of learn to accept that part of my life.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really feel like everybody should do it, because it was so liberating to like understand that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like, most people who identify as heterosexual just don't even think about it, because they don't have, well, at least for me, I had people challenging me to think about it. So that's why I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I am a Christian. I do feel attraction towards women. And so, they're trying to support me through that process. And so then I'm beginning to break all of these things down.
Right.
But it shouldn't just be those who, identify as something outside of the heterosexual norm. I think everybody should have an understanding of their sexuality and what that looks like for them. Because there could be asexual Christians who don't want to have sex with their husbands, and they don't really know why.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, actually, you're asexual, and it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? So it could maybe cause things down the road because we're thinking about sexuality in a very black and white way when it's not like that.
Right. Yeah. And I think the key thing that kind of keeps coming to my mind is people are fearful that, if they know that they do desire to be with a woman, they'll just kind of fall over the edge and God will not love them anymore. And they'll go way too deep into that experience and get lost in it. But
right. And that's so sad because like, I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's beneficial to hide. Yeah. And I understand that sentiment because for a long time I never talked about any of these things. I never told anybody. Maybe a few close friends knew how I was feeling, but it is scary because it's like, my life is actually going to be different, knowing these things about myself. But it's all about how, you choose to live.
Yeah.
And I think, like, earlier you were talking about what Scripture says about Christians in terms of, feelings outside of the heterosexual norm. But, like, I really want to challenge people to just take those feelings and thoughts and bring them to Jesus and have him tell you how to live your life accordingly. I would never tell somebody who came to me and they're like, Magdala, I feel romantic attraction towards women. I would never say like, okay, you have to do this and you have to live like this and you have to live like that. I would say, if you want to talk about things, if you need help exploring this identity, yes, like I'd love to talk to you. But ultimately God will tell you what you should do with those feelings and how you should live. And that is between you and God. And for people who aren't Christians, then go out,
right? Live your life. That's what makes me even more angry when people are like, Christians are holding people that do not have our same values to that standard. What are you doing? That is not what God has called us to do.
It is
Leave those
not.
people
If your
alone.
friend, if right, like if your gay friends are not Christian, they invite you to their wedding. Go to their wedding. What's your problem? Go have a good time. Like, I don't see why. I think that is the fear. It's like, oh, because, you know, it is in scripture, it says it is a sin. Everybody is like, all right, so we don't associate with those people because it's a sin. And it's like, no, they're people. And that is actually up to them how they choose to live their life. And that is their freedom
that's what it comes down to
given.
too. Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to then. What is your own conviction? Because I understand why people may say, oh, I'm not going to go to a homosexual wedding because I don't want it to seem like I'm supporting this. That's your own conviction. But if the Lord is calling you to say like, oh, I love these people and they already know I disagree, I'm going to still go anyways. That's still up to you and Jesus. It's really up to you and Jesus.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's kind of where we get to at that point. But I also want to point out like, it is okay to be curious. Okay? It is okay to be curious. I think everyone's been curious at some point, okay? Because we explore God's creation and you land where you land just for some people, you know? So if you've wondered or you've thought a girl was pretty or maybe you were romantically attracted to a girl at one point and now that's like something you would never do again, or opposite way, because there are a lot of guy listeners as well. Like if you were, you know, interested in a man and realize, oh, maybe this is romantic, and you realize I don't want to have sex with this guy. Maybe it was just a thing I experienced in high school or whatever, you know? It's okay to be curious. Like God is not going to smite you down because you have temptation. That's not where the issue lies. It's when you devote your life to something over Christ and choosing something that the Lord doesn't want for you. But I'm tempted. I mean, listen, we're coming upon the winter season, right?
Cuffing
and
season.
sweatpants are coming out, right? So we're going to be tempted. We're going to be tempted to look. But that doesn't mean I'm a sinner. I mean, I am a sinner, right? But that doesn't mean I'm committing my life to sin. That just means I'm curious, I'm tempted, and the Lord will help me through that. And I'm using a small joking thing, but like, yes, the Lord will help you through it. So it's nothing to be scared of. It's a part of you. So like, just because you hide it doesn't mean it's going to go away. Or like, just because you hide it doesn't mean like God's like, good job, my child, hide that sin or that struggle you're dealing with from everyone. Like, no, He wants you to feel comforted and seen, because also I think it's important to normalize it. Just us having this conversation, like it's normal. I'm sure there's a lot of Christians that have experiences where it's like, oh, maybe I want to be more romantically close to this girl or this guy. Like it happens, but you don't have to give in to temptation. And the Lord is strong enough to help you not. So that kind of leads me to
and it's
question.
up to you to have that dialogue with Him.
Right.
Oh,
that leads
sorry.
me to my next question. You know, you're fine. That leads me to my next question, where it's like, what has your experience been in the church with people and how they've handled your same-sex attraction?
Girl. It's been a range. So
Okay.
I can think of some distinct moments. So
Tell
for
us.
example, I remember I was in high school and I was trying to tell my friends like, hey, I'm romantic. So let me backtrack. I was in a youth group at my church, super involved. And I had a very close friend in that youth group who I was romantically attracted to. At the time, I didn't necessarily know that, but I just knew, like, I felt like I liked that person. And I remember, like, we were really close, and we went to, like, a summer camp. And so, like, I told some of my friends, like, hey, you know, this is how I'm feeling. And I actually had another friend who was like, oh, I actually feel the same way towards other people, too. And so we were really close with our youth pastor. Like, he was an awesome guy. He was super cool. And, you know, we felt comfortable with him. And so we told him. And our first conversation was just like, you know, Magdala, I care about you. I don't want to not talk about this because it's weird. I want to, like, be there for you. And, you know, I want to support you. And so I told him the details, and he was like, okay, maybe try not to, like, you know, sit next to that person all the time. And then, like, you know, if you know, when we go to camp, maybe try not to, like, sleep next to them. And I was like, okay. And then we never talked about it again. So that was my first. So I got a lot of support. I got a lot of support, but very little guidance. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't even say a lot of support.
And so
though. You got a lot of support in the moment, but not even long term.
Right. And it's like, and I felt for him because I knew that he didn't know what to do. Clearly. Yeah. Like, you have no clue what to tell me or how to help me. And so, and I guess, you know, I never brought it up to him again either, but, you know, that could have been a great time for him to, like, you know, come alongside me and help me figure it out, but he didn't. And so that was basically, that description is basically what transpired whenever I did tell Christians, about my feelings. They'd just be like, okay, boundaries, have boundaries, you know, don't talk to that person late at night, or if they're don't hang out with them like all the time. And it was difficult because for me, I usually developed feelings towards friends, like friends that I thought were beautiful, friends who like had qualities that I admired. Like, you know, they're in my life. So it was difficult for me to navigate that. And so that was always interesting. And then, you know, when I got to college, you know, that was when I did join that support group at a church, where they were like helping people navigate things. And there was a book we read. Don't remember what the book said. Not really much about the book. Sonata knows. I'm not good at like remembering books or reading things. Down, right? No, that's not my calling.
Even though you're getting your doctorate right now, right? Anyways,
I am getting a PhD. I read things if I have to.
Okay. You're not a leisure reader.
I'm not. It's like two spectrums: educational things and then like Harry Potter. It's like very diverse. But we like had a book that we went through as a group. And so, you know, that kind of helped me break down like a few more things, kind of like how I mentioned earlier, like, okay, who am I attracted to and why am I attracted to them? And, you know, in that space, they never told us like, okay, well, that was like the first time where nobody was like, okay, well, you know, make sure you don't do this or that. They were basically like, take your feelings to Jesus and let him tell you how to live your life. And I remember around that time, like, because now I'm in college, all the friends who knew about my my attraction to women in high school are not around me anymore, so I'm in college now. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me share this with some friends. And I had Christian friends, by the way, and I had, you know, mixed reactions. I remember one person in particular was like, I knew it. And that was so, like, I don't know how I feel about that. Because like, it was like, you know, I don't know, actually.
What is that? That's like, okay.
Right. And so let me just say, that's not the best response. Like, that's not what you really should be telling somebody. Like, I knew you were, you know, like, oh, you know, and then they would say stupid
like,
things.
What the freak?
Right. And, you know, like, you know, I guess my gender expression is a little masculine, but, like, what does that have to do with anything? That doesn't mean somebody, you know, is attracted to people. So I, like, was really annoyed by that comment.
Yeah.
And then, like, she in particular would like do my makeup sometimes and be like, you're so beautiful, like, you know, it's okay, like, you're gonna find a great guy.
Oh gosh.
And then when I started dating my current partner, she was like, I knew you weren't a lesbian. So
oh my god, who is this woman?
Yeah.
Just kidding, don't out her.
And it's actually funny because I've never confronted her about it.
Oh
but
my
it was
god.
like the absolute worst way to get, you know, to the worst response ever.
Yeah.
Really. And so, so that's kind of like the mix.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, I don't really talk about this to people. Like now I do, now that I'm like older and confident in my identity. Like, if somebody said that to me now, I would correct them. Like, actually, if people say this to you, like, don't say that. And, like, these things are actually not supportive. But that was kind of like the general arch.
Okay.
But I do remember in our support group, something I want to highlight, and I don't know if other people have had this similar experience, but they were really saying that a lot of same-sex feelings or, attraction is rooted or can present itself in codependency.
I was going to say, talk about that.
Like, so like, getting very close to somebody and like, them being your only confidant, your only, source of support, emotional support. And I think at the time I was like, okay, I see how that could happen, but I don't necessarily think that's the case for everyone, because I have healthy relationships with these friends now, and it wasn't necessarily rooted in codependency. So maybe that is possible for people who do have these experiences, but I don't think it's a blanket thing. Like they're telling it to the group, like, you're in a codependent relationship with this person. Yeah. And it's like,
that's not appropriate.
I don't actually think so. Yeah, because when I think about the friends that I was attracted to, they were all kind of like not great friends to me.
Oh. Yeah, so that kind of debunks that. They're not a safe space.
Right. Like I remember, like and it might be helpful for me to describe like one of those friendships too, but they were all kind of people who like were, they kind of did their own thing. They were in their own lane. Like they're not the person that's like, yeah, call me at midnight if you need something. They're like, I want to sleep. But text me tomorrow.
Right. If you need me, don't.
I'll see you next week. Right. So I don't think that's the whole codependency thing was necessarily true for at least my experiences. And we can talk about this more too if anything I said was unclear or you want me to expand upon it, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Just being a therapist, like codependence can happen in any relationship, even if it's healthy or unhealthy. So codependence is what makes the relationship unhealthy. It's not the relationship itself, if that makes sense. So it's not just because you're same-sex attracted. So
right.
I'll stand by that as well. But yeah, so
thank you.
There's so much I want to ask. So, okay, just to go back, explain to them what the difference between being romantically attracted to someone and physically, because you had to explain that to me like over and over. And I was trying to explain to my roommate and we're both confused still. Kinda. I kind of understand it, but I need you to communicate it to me.
Yeah. And I think the maybe to start with, as I explain these things, don't consider your own interactions with people. Like, just step outside that for a second and hear me out. Okay.
Okay.
So physical, or some people even say physical or sexual, they'll call it sexual attraction, is an interest in engaging in sexual activity with someone. So maybe if you're in a relationship with someone, as you get closer to them, maybe you want to kiss them, maybe you want to have sex with them, right? You have these desires to engage in sexual activity. But romantic or emotional attraction is an interest in being involved in a romantic relationship with someone where it doesn't necessarily involve those things. So maybe you just want to be close to that person. Maybe you want to spend like alone time with that person. Maybe you want to hold hands with that person, because that's not necessarily sexual, right?
Sexual. Right.
Depending on who you talk to. Some people might say otherwise. But,
I
it's
wonder
like
who those humans are.
Maybe you just right? But maybe you just want to be close to that person. You want to have deep conversations with that person. But when you think about that person, it doesn't involve being sexual with them. Like, you actually just love their company, you want to be around them, you want to be close to them, right? And those two things don't necessarily live together. Some people can experience physical attraction and never experience romantic attraction, right?
Oh, true.
Like,
Yeah.
some people can have sex with somebody and they're not actually romantically attracted to them. Maybe they don't want to be close to them, but they're physically attracted. Like, oh, I find you attractive. Let's have sex. You know what I mean? Like, that can happen too. And so it's the same on both sides. Like, I think, like, think about individuals who like want to have a one night stand. Maybe there's some romance there, but maybe it's mostly physical because you only got to know that person maybe for a few hours.
Right.
But you are comfortable enough to engage in sexual activity with them. So that's really the difference, is that, you know, romance can just stay there. It doesn't have to progress.
Yeah.
But socially, we lump those two together, regardless of who you talk to. Christian people or not Christian people, those two things usually come together.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult because in relationships, people may have that expectation. Like, oh, okay, we've been dating for a few months. We're really close to each other. We can, you know, move to that next stage of being sexual or physical with each other. And some people may not be interested in that at all, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the person. But does that help?
Yes, but then I have another question. So what you explained to me is wanting to be close to someone, holding their hands, right? So what would the difference between a best friend and romance be for you? Like, because the way that you explain romance, it sounds like just a close relationship.
Right. So that's a good question. I think here, I had some things written down. Let me see.
Because I think maybe it's just like because you're attracted to their face, but you don't want to have sex with them.
Right. Yeah. Like, these people, I definitely found them like attractive. Like, I thought they were beautiful. So in the sense that it's like, I mean, I wouldn't say it was physical because it didn't step into the sexual realm, but like I thought these people were very beautiful. I thought they were very pretty. And I wanted to be close to them.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little different because maybe think about like I want to be close with my best friends, but I want to be closer to somebody who I'm romantic with, right?
Yeah.
Like, my partner right now, you know, like, I can spend, you know, an unnecessary amount of time with him, right? My best friends, I love them, but it comes, you know, like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, girl, you know? Like, it comes with its limits a little bit. But I think, like, for the, you know, somebody who I'm romantically attracted to, like, you know, I can go hours seeing them, like, you know, and I want to be around them all the time. Best friends, I think I would do that too, but it's just a little bit more in terms of the romantic side.
It's more intimate,
and
I
I've heard people, yes, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely intimacy there. Like, let me see. I've seen people, I'll find it as we're chatting, but
Okay.
Some people have described it as like the difference between who you want to cuddle with, who you want to hold, like who you want to hold hands with, and who you want to have sex with, right?
Okay.
Like, there's differences, and I think maybe it just, you know, depends on the person and how they experience. But I think that's where the difference for romance is. It's just that I want to be closer to that person. I do find them attractive in the sense that I think that they are physically attractive, but I don't want to delve into that sexual area. I'm just not interested in it.
Yeah. And I think that's even what I want to say too is like Magdala is not the poster child for same-sex attraction. Okay. So right now
Yes.
she there's going to be people who are same-sex attracted who do want to have sex with the opposites or with the same sex.
Right.
And there's going to be people like Magdala who are just romantically interested. So
yeah, or people on the opposite side who are just physically interested.
right. And I think it's awesome that you pointed out too that there are a lot of Christians. I'm not going to say a lot, but there are Christians who are asexual. Like, that's a real thing, and that has nothing to do with you like being in the world or whatever. It's just how you are. So
Right.
I think that's
It's
important
just your
because,
preference.
like you were saying, exactly, it's your preference. So, and you can be romantically attracted to someone and get married for that reason, not just to have sex with them. Because I know the Bible says if you're burning with passion, then get married. But there's some people who are not burning with passion who just want to spend the rest of their life with someone, and that's a reality too. So yeah, I thought that was important too. Pinpoint
Yes,
as well.
I'm glad that you highlighted that because it definitely is a difference. Yeah. And I think, if there's anybody who kind of does feel like, okay, maybe there is a distinction between how I experience physical and romantic attraction, definitely dive into that and see, like, truly, how do you feel about those things? Because I think that we know, in ourselves what we're okay with, what we're not okay with, or what we enjoy and what we don't,
Yeah.
And I think that somebody could figure that out for themselves.
Cool. So then I want to ask too, do you feel like you're more romantically, I guess, I don't even know if that's a question to ask. Do you feel like you're more romantically attracted to your boyfriend than physically?
No.
Or is it just like, it's,
No. So, like, this is a good.
okay.
I think this
maybe
is a
like
good
they're
question.
like right here, I don't know. Only the Patreon people will see what I'm doing, but
Oh, well, no. I mean, there's definitely levels to it. I don't think it would necessarily be equal, but like, I think it also presents in my love language. My love language is words of affirmation and quality time.
okay.
His love language is physical. Wait, what is it? Physical
Physical touch?
touch. Yes, yes. So, I
That's how
think
most
it kind
guys
of presents
are.
in that way, like, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that is how most guys are, but it's possible. It could be like that. But I think, for me, I don't necessarily, like, I wouldn't put levels. Well, I think there could be levels to it. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say, like, I feel those things equally. Maybe romance is more important to me. I haven't thought about that.
But I think that's normal in most
feel
relationships, though, too, now that I think about it. It's usually like,
it could be.
At the end of the day, you are best friends because you have to live the rest of your life with that person. So I just didn't know if that, like, it break down that way on that side as well. But
yeah. And when in the training, when we were talking about it, every little level of things that we discussed was on a spectrum, right? Like, think of math back in the day. You got the point and the line that extends to infinity, right? Infinity. And you get to decide where you fall on that line. And so they let us, like, part of the training was like, okay, decide for yourself. Like, for physical attraction, where do you fall? For romantic attraction, where do you fall? So I think that there could be a distinction there.
yeah.
But for me, I mean, now that I think about it, I think I do enjoy, like, the romance with him. But I also, the physical attraction is there. So I don't know if I've ever thought about the levels to it. But
Yeah,
I bet
you
if
don't
I
need
did,
to.
maybe I'd have a different answer.
Yeah, that's unnecessary. But I think that's beautiful that they had you guys do that. I think every person should do that. How do you do it on the
It's
spectrum
such
like that?
a great exercise. No,
And I know-
it's awesome.
I know
It's
Christians
awesome.
may be fearful to see that on paper, like, oh, you're walking by a child and you see that there's this higher for women. It's like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? But
Yeah.
like we've been saying this whole time, you are allowed to desire something. That doesn't mean that you have to give into that temptation. But knowing yourself and knowing what tempts you is important. That's how you don't fall. So I think that's awesome. And I definitely will take that with me when or if I have kids, Lord willing, if I have children.
Right. And I think,
But,
like, when we get that sex ed talk in an elementary school,
Or don't get it.
I guess depending on right, I was gonna say depending on the school you go to.
I had a sex ed talk
I
in
don't know.
elementary with my freaking peers, okay? That's what I had.
Right? They're like, this is a penis and that is a vagina. Really? That's what they're called. Yeah, no, it's funny. But I feel like when they do give that talk, it should be less about, your genitals and more about your feelings. Like, how do you actually feel towards people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People should understand that. And so I appreciate, you know, the openness of the LGBTQ plus community, because they've allowed so much space for people to have different conversations about things we otherwise would never think about, because we're just living in this such a heteronormative sense.
Yeah.
But when you go beyond that, there's so much that you can learn about yourself.
For sure. Oh man, I hope this has been freeing for some of you. I can just feel like, I don't know, it's not I can feel the weight coming off of people's shoulders. So yeah, just explore, guys, and just know, like, it may sound like, because at first when you said, Magdala, like, oh, I'm not going to tell someone not to live this way, I'm just going to tell them, like, bring it to Jesus. That kind of feels like a cop-out, but that's me discrediting what the Lord can do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not a cop-out. It's not me saying, like, oh, just keep living how you want to. Go ahead.
Right. Because it's like, you know, I can't tell somebody, you know, if they tell me, you know, this is my conviction, I can't tell them, oh, that's not how you know what I mean? Oh, you're wrong. Like, let Jesus decide for you how you are going to live and walk in that. You know, like Jackie Hill Perry, she, you know, feels, you know, both romantic and physical attraction towards women, and she felt like God was calling her not to act on those feelings. And that's what she chose, you know. For people who aren't Christian, go on with your bad self, do what you want.
Exactly.
But if you are a believer, I would just say bring those feelings to God to see what he says about it.
Yeah, and I was actually reading her book recently, the new one she came out with called Holier Than Thou. I know you have not read it, so I'm gonna tell you what's in it.
Give me a synopsis. Break it down for me.
She said, we have supposed that the way to help people to be holy is to just tell them to stop sinning, when in fact, lasting transformation is a spiritual consequence of beholding the Lord. So what you're saying is completely in line with Scripture. 2 Corinthians 3:18 is also a part of that. We're like, God is sovereign. So why are we making it seem like, oh, these boundaries are going to work better than going to Jesus with your experiences? Like, and when Magdala says go to Jesus, she's not just saying like, oh, talk to him a little bit. No, this is a real relationship, and you need to work it out with Jesus Christ. It's not just a small thing. You're going to have to work it out.
Right.
So it's not a cop-out. It's literally going to the one who can change you.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think, you know, everybody has different experiences, but I agree, you know, you just need to go to God and figure out what that is for yourself. And, you know, I think in this conversation, I think what I want to highlight is sexuality is a spectrum. It really depends. For every person, it is different. So why would we give black and white advice to people?
Right.
Like, oh, don't sleep next to that person. And, you know, now that I'm thinking back on that advice that I was given, it's like, I'm actually not even sexually attracted to her.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we could have had a bomb slumber party, but I guess. Right?
He robbed you of that.
So it's like... Right. Or to say, you know, oh, well, if you experience same-sex attraction, you must be codependent. Like, no, sexuality is a spectrum. Everybody can have different feelings. So let those people, if you have people in your community have these feelings, let them tell you what their feelings are. Help them explore what it is. It is an open-ended conversation.
Yeah.
For them to figure out their identity.
Right. And it's not unholy where you land. Wherever you land is where you land. It's not unholy. So, good stuff. Okay. So, my last question for you is, what do you wish you could have heard from people in the church when you shared about your same-sex experience?
Oh, girl. Okay. So, this is good. And I didn't highlight this earlier. So, after those experiences that I had, I really kind of, I talked about this earlier, but like, I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? So, after I, like, you know, could put into words, okay, like, you know, these are the type of women I'm attracted to, I would be stressed out all the time, like not knowing, you know, how to dress, because I do, you know, my gender expression is more masculine. So some days I'd stare at my closet and be so confused, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. Or even not knowing how to navigate these relationships with people. And I would dwell on it every single day, like just be stressed about the whole thing, because all of these people are telling me I need to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And it was really ridiculous. And it almost made it harder you know, for me to have friendships with people and things like that, or, you know, being afraid of getting close to people. And so I think it wasn't until I was like, you know, these feelings aren't going away. They're a part of me, and I can learn how to live with them. Did I finally find peace? Like, Magdala, stressing over it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
But, you know, figure out how you feel, okay? That's how you feel. Accept that's how you feel, you know? If you want to wear joggers, girl, go to the men's section and buy some joggers. There's no problem with it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and then it wasn't until I stopped stressing over it and started accepting who I was and that I had these feelings, did I begin to live, you know,
Yeah,
and every
that's
day
good.
wasn't such a stressful process. So I think what I wish people would have told me was like, hey, this is a part of you and this is something for you to figure out. And like, everybody has differences in how they live that's different from the norm. And, you know, just accept those things about yourself and you'll be fine. And, you know, we'll help you figure that out. You know, we'll help you figure out how you actually feel, and don't be afraid to think about it or to work through it. And so I think that was really what I needed to hear. It's like, okay, accept it. You know, that's how you feel, accept it. And, you know, you'll figure out how to live after that. Because now I have peace about the whole thing. Like, this might be unrelated, but I remember I was talking to a friend who previously struggled with drug addiction. And in all of her conversations with people, they'd just be like, you know, stop doing drugs. And so she'd be so, like, focused on not doing drugs that she wouldn't focus on anything else.
Right.
So that was the same with me. I was so focused on my attraction to women that I couldn't figure out how to live. And it was like, well, if you just accept that that's something that you struggle with, you can work through it.
Right.
And that's what I needed to do. It wasn't on my mind every day because it was like, okay, it's a part of me, and I had to like learn to come to peace with it. Because that was also hard. Like, I want to say nobody wants to choose to be, you know, like, attracted to women. Nobody would choose that.
Exactly.
Especially in this day and age. Like, it comes with so much turmoil in your relationships with people. Like, it can come with a lot of turmoil and stress. Like, being outside of the norm, you have more work to do sometimes. I think everybody should be doing the work already, but being outside of the norm, it's like you have to figure out, you know, things that are different about you, and it can be hard. Nobody would choose this. But if you can, you know, learn to accept those things about yourself, you can find peace. And that's all I needed to hear from somebody. Like, Magdala, you know, that's just your experience. And not even like, oh, I'm sorry you have that. No, this is your life experience. You're fine. It's okay. You're a person, actually. And all humans are different.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. You'll be fine. You know, just figure it out. And I'm here to help you through that. And I'm not going to put makeup on your face so you can feel pretty.
Yeah. That's good. And I want you guys to really hear that. If you need to turn it back and listen again, she gave you the words to say, you know? She gave you exactly the words to say. But little side note, too, like gender expression, you grew up with brothers, right?
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Yes. So
And
I was
so
a
did I.
tomboy from jump.
Same. So, like, the way that I dress sometimes, the way that I talk sometimes, I don't dress really masculine, but sometimes I don't like to dress girly, you know? Like, it's not comfortable. And it never has been. When I was a kid, I would literally rip dresses off my body. I don't want it. I'm wearing jeans to church. But my mom was still putting me in the dang dresses. But I was a tomboy growing up. So even now, still, like, I have very, like, girly friends. So I'm, like, learning, you know, how to, like, not how to, but, like, dressing more feminine and comfortable ways to dress feminine.
Right.
But that also plays a role. So even if you weren't same-sex attracted, that may have played a role. You growing up with brothers would play a role in how you express yourself. So there's so many different levels to it.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me at least, when I was younger, it seemed like more stress. Like, their clothes look comfortable. My dress is itchy, and these heels make my feet hurt and these socks are frilly, right?
Exactly.
Like it was like, this is not fun. Like this is not it, Mom. This is not it.
Right.
And now that I'm older, it's like, okay, I can explore things and find out, like, okay, yeah, if I want to dress more feminine, here's how I can do it and still be comfortable.
Right.
But I think, like, as growing up, I never had that option. So my feelings towards femininity was very negative. You know?
Yeah.
Like I gotta sit down and do my hair for hours, and y'all get to go swim in the pool, you know.
And that's
like,
and then being black on top of that too. That's a whole nother thing.
Girl, yes, I was about to say that might be the experience mostly for black women, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Crap. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. We definitely have, there's so many different levels to sexuality and your experience of it. Just being a human on this earth is a lot of work and figuring out to do. But I'm just really grateful that we could have this conversation and normalize, like, we live on a flawed earth because of sin. So things are going to be as they shouldn't be. And that doesn't mean that you are condemned to hell for it. You just kind of have to work around things and work with your temptations. So, oh man, I want to talk so much longer about this, but we might have to have you back on, bro.
Hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So let me know.
Cool.
I don't know we'll talk after, but we'll figure something out if people have more questions and stuff.
Yeah, we can do like a Q&A or something on Patreon.
I'm down.
Hey. So that's what we'll do. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As you guys know, remember to always speak the truth in love. You can follow The Parallel at The Parallel Pod on Instagram, and we will be talking to you later. Bye.
Bye.
All right.